Hello, and first and foremost, thank you for joining me. My name is Jacob Chigner, and I've been a paramedic for the last 8 years. And emergency medicine runs in my blood. Blood is why I'm here today. Now, I'm always a 911 call away, but sometimes action has to be taken before I can get there. Traumatic injuries can turn south really quickly when not addressed in a timely manner. The cost can be someone's arm, leg, or even life. And so it is very important to be ready to assist as a non-medical civilian. Bleeding control comes in easy to follow order, but a very important order. The point is to stop the bleeding with the least amount of interventions as possible, producing a brighter outlook for the patient and a healthy and appropriate amount of recovery time. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll be referring mostly to arm, leg, and neck wounds. The first step to bleeding control is simple. It's just elevation of the limb. Allied Academy states above the level of the heart being the goal height. This uses gravity to help us control the bleeding and promotes healthy clotting to the wounds. The patient can be laid on his back with the limb directly into the air. The next step is direct pressure over the wound given via hand-to-wound contact. Basic bandaging to secure a barrier for the provider to safely touch is encouraged. The direct pressure in tandem with the elevation helps the area to clot and bleeding to be subdued. Moving on to bulky dressings if the bleeding does not subside. Bulky dressings are useful in applying continuous constriction to the wound as well as adequate gauze to soak up blood. The emphasis is on bulky. Wrapping a substantial amount of gauze repeatedly over the wound site will, for the most wounds, cease the bleeding. It is worth to mention that all gauze is fine to use, but EMS.gov recommends combat gauze as the first line treatment for the life-threatening hemorrhage that is not amenable to tourniquet placement, which we will get to tourniquets very soon. The only limb wound that requires a special wrap is the neck wound because of the added airway concern. This wound must be wrapped over the wounds and under the opposite arm, creating pressure, but also leaving the airway open. If we have made it this far with no control over the bleeding, we have one more low-risk intervention to try. Direct pressure point. This provides a tourniquet-like occlusion without the risks within tourniquets. Harvard Medical School states to press down firmly on the artery between the bleeding site and the heart. This proximal placement effectively stops the artery or vein from pumping to the direction of the wound. This method is very effective but has one drawback: involvement of multiple veins or arteries. The highest risk but most effective way of stopping the bleeding is a tourniquet. It is only indicated if everything up until this point has been ineffective. The bleeding control device has its share of risks, but the Journal of American College Surgeons' newest research shows a 6-fold mortality reduction in patients with peripheral vascular injuries. In patients with early application time. The proper application is key to the safety of the patient. Taking the tourniquet out of the packaging, putting it about 2 to 3 inches above the wound, tightening the Velcro as tight as possible, then moving on to the stick and turning it multiple times and locking it into place provides the safest tourniquet application. The best way to eliminate dangers is proper time labeling. The use of a Sharpie or pen to write where the tourniquet was placed helps emergency room doctors know the time frame since the cease of circulation. According to EMS World, 2 hours is considered the length of time a tourniquet can be placed before neuromuscular injuries and functionality losses occur. The hardest part of a trauma can sometimes be how we react to it. The proper training in advance can save a limb or even a life. The flow list of interventions is key to a healthy outcome of the patient. Elevation, Direct pressure, bulky dressings, pressure point, and finally, tourniqueting are not only very effective, but very easy to learn and to apply.